Alright everybody, welcome back to round 3 action. As I always forget to change the actual round banner until I say round 3. Round 3 action from Friday Night Magic here at Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia. This, of course, round 3 of 5 in our standard Friday night tournament. 40 players vying for bragging rights and booster packs. And in this round 3 matchup, I've got two 2-0 players for you. On the left, Jonathan Wright, one half of the infamous Wright brother tandem. He is playing American Flash. You might remember Jonathan for top 32ing Star City Games Cincinnati 2 weekends ago. At that time, he was playing Geist of St. Traft-based American Flash and wrecking people who were playing Boros Reckoners. This week, he has fallen to the dark side and is in fact playing his own Boros Reckoner. So he has tweaked his deck to a more traditional, when I say traditional, I mean more prevalent Boros Reckoner-based American Flash deck with Harvest Pyre combo and all that kind of goodies. He's playing against Casey Skibbe, also known as just Skibbe, who is playing Mono Swamp Control. So it's not really Mono Black by any stretch of the imagination. It is just... You out?
I'm out.
Now joined by Scott Driver. I should say my name is always Zachary Evans, and joined tonight by Eric Schmidt, and now by Scott Driver. Didn't go your way this week.
I got told, man.
The last 2 weeks, Scott, of course, piloting red deck wins. The last 2 weeks, I'll tell him. Oh, I thought they were waiting for me.
No, second
We do
round.
see Scissors Lizard win Rock, Paper, Scissors. But yeah, Scott, you are a resident pilot of red deck wins, and tonight some bad matchups not going your way.
Second round, I literally saw Cathedral Sanctifier, Centaur Healer, Trostani, Thragtusk, Rot's Faithmender, all main deck.
That's like the worst case scenario for you.
Life gain suite right there.
It didn't work out too well.
You didn't go your way. Well, sorry to hear that.
That's okay. I've got some good trading done.
You did get to we were talking earlier. You are building the Gruul aggro deck as well as the Jund aggro, so you've
I've discovered
got some
that
options here.
There are other colors.
There are other colors, but only good if paired with red.
Yeah, well, I figured it out when I saw the hybrid mana symbols. I was like, there must be other colors.
They're trying to... These things they're tainting my red decks with. So we are watching the American Flash deck of Jonathan Wright take on Mono Swamp Control out of Casey Skibbe. The reason I say Mono Swamp Control is because it is a Mutilate-based deck. He does have white and black, but it's actually 4 colors, as you see the Overgrown Tomb. But the majority of the deck is black.
Is it that Conley Woods monstrosity?
It is in that same vein. It is not that deck. Conley Woods is basically mono black, splashing red for like Dreadbore, and Casey's deck is probably Sorin here. It is in fact Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Interesting tidbit: Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, announced today that he's going to be reprinted as part of the Sorin versus Tibalt dual decks. Of course, they had announced those dual decks ages ago, but only today spoiled the deck lists.
I tried so hard to make Tibalt good.
He's not. This is the problem.
And he should be because he's fancy, but he's just not.
He is not a good Magic card. It's just unfortunate. So.
Okay, what's going on?
Sorin's thing, I apologize, I can't make it very much bigger. That one, of course, is on a little bit of a delay. But we see a Sorin here that's stuck, makes a Vampire. Going to make another Vampire. Needs to up the counter. He didn't up the counter, right?
He's got it at 4, so looks.
That is the. Hey, Did you make another Vampire? Yeah. It goes to 5, right? I knew that. So we're 2 for 3 on having interact with the matches today. It just gets get a little excited here. So Jonathan's deck has plenty of ways to interact with Sorin. I mean, it's got red burn in it. He's got flash creatures that he can sneak out. Of course, Boros Reckoner will answer it as well. Boros Charm, in fact, will answer it as well.
Yes.
But
and with the Restoration, you just fly right over those poor ground-bound vampires.
yes, the Vampire is not the greatest way in the world to win a game of Magic. Usually you just make the vampires as a way of fogging in order to use Sorin's ultimate, which is very, very good.
Yeah. So we see a Pillar of Flame into Sorin. keeping him down a turn.
Yeah, the pillars are going to be not that great against Skibbe, especially having already dispatched one Deathrite Shaman. I'm not sure if there's any targets.
That's 4 easy sideboard slots right there.
Yeah, they come out a lot. Basically everything that isn't red based, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I'm playing red deck wins, Pillar of Flame's one of the easy cuts in about half the matchups. And if I know what they're playing, a lot of times I find myself going turn 1 Pillar to the dome like a 10-year-old kid.
It's good. It's sometimes good. So we see a combination of Searing Spear and a flash-backed Pillar of Flame take out Sorin, but Rakdos' return is going to clear out the Supreme Verdict in Jonathan's hand.
Rakdos' return devastated me in round 1.
Yeah, we saw last round in our bonus match, we saw the same kind of thing happen to Cliff Markham, who had to get rid of Orzhov Charm and 2 Restoration Angels in a game that he would have won had he been able to play either of them.
Yeah, both games round 1, I'd figured out the kill with points to spare and got my Brimstone Volley and Hell Riders Rakdos out.
Yes, it's brutal. It is a brutal swing. Mind Twist was a heck of a card.
Yeah.
Imagine if it only cost 1 black and it was random. That's what Mind Twist was.
And you could cast it off of Lotus or Dark Ritual.
Yeah. There was very much a time. I played in a time when Mind Twist was legal but restricted, because they used to have a restricted list in Standard, so you could just play 1 copy. And I played during the time when you could go Swamp, Dark Ritual, Mind Twist for 4, get all of your lands. Good game.
Yeah, I remember when Dingus Egg was actually on the restricted list.
Magic is a funny game.
Dingus Egg. Ape was banned and extended.
Dingus Egg was once restricted, and Blazing Shoal is now banned in Modern. Yep. This is the game we play. So Augur of Bolus comes down. It's going to eat one of the life-linking vampires. So Skibbe well ahead here with his opponent basically hellbent him having a ton of answers in hand. Looks like I see a Devour Flesh in there. But he's going to need some kind of way of closing this game out. Snapcaster goes in the bin.
And you have Jonathan Rick's Revelation.
What about that guy? Of course, how about all of these Devour Flesh? Still had all these Devour Flesh. They both connect. And with those two vampire tokens from Sorin, that's a 9-turn clock there.
Yep.
Really putting the pressure on Jonathan there with and there's Vraska. Vraska's going to get out of control. Interesting. I guess at this point, Jonathan has enough lands in play that the Vindicate really isn't worth it. And you can, I would love to see nothing more than assassin tokens for the win on the screen.
Very exciting.
That seems unlikely.
It does. Let us have our moments, Scott. Let us have that hope of seeing the most. Which one is it? Is it Timmy? Is Timmy the one that just plays does the fun things? Isn't that a Timmy way of winning the game?
No, Timmy wants to swing with like an 11-11. Johnny wants to win with assassin tokens.
Okay. And Spike just wants to win. He doesn't care.
Right.
And Vorthos doesn't play. He just collects the cards because of the art.
Yes.
Nailed it. We got them all. I do, as I always do, get on the Wright brothers for their mana base, because we see one unhinged mountain, but also one Zendikar. So another Rakdos return.
And they're bad tonight because I traded for root-bound crags from different core sets, and that's something no one will ever know.
Well, you know what we just saw there? And we didn't actually see it because all we do is to see it die on 3 and then Jonathan scooping it up. But that was, in fact, Vraska Ultimate, make 3 assassin tokens, win the game. Although we know fully well that game was won ages ago by Jonathan having to use basically 3 cards to get rid of a Sorin. And then eat not 1 but 2 Rakdos returns. So Casey Skibbe and his mono swamp control deck, which looks a lot like 4-color control, but like I said, he has Mutilates, so that's.
And I don't know how Jonathan sideboards here, other than cutting Pillar of Flame.
Just just cutting himself. That's what he does, just out of spite. So he's going to go with, I think he's got another Detention Sphere in the board. That's probably going to come in. Some negates, I think, as well. He has Geist of St. Traft in the board. The question is that better in Reckoner in this matchup? Geist is usually better against Control, but not necessarily the Control deck that has Devour Flesh. So it would be interesting to see if he decides to go that route.
It looks like Rakdos Return is pulling a lot of weight tonight on our feature matches.
Well, it's very good, and it's the kind of card that's like super swingy. I do want to take a minute to say that Grand Prix this week is in Yokohama, Japan. 2,250 people. Just saw the announcement on Twitter from Magic Hall of Famer Kinji Samura. Kinji Samura, I want to tell another interesting Magic history tidbit that no one will care about, but I'm going to say anyway. Kinji Samura is known as being one of the most sportsmanlike players in the history of Magic because he played in the Pro Tour where everyone was playing packs, but like in an honest way, like in the Future Sight, and he, like, multiple times would remind his opponent, like multiple matches. His goal was to never win a game to his opponent missing a pact. He said he was very upset. It's like well documented that in the interview after the event, he was very upset because he missed a couple. Like he couldn't stop his opponent from killing themselves. So that's he made it to the Hall of Fame this year. So it was good to see. Like,
I'm going to be terribly disillusioned when it turns out that was just a cover for him drawing 3 cards while they tilted over missing the pact.
He is also victim of. I'll see if I'll put a link up to this as well. As part of our recap post, so make sure you go to our Facebook page and check this out probably tomorrow. He is also on the losing end of one of the coolest mind tricks ever that was in documented Magic. In Pro Tour Hollywood, it was extended back in the early 2000s or mid-2000s or whatever. It was won by Antoine Rouel of the Rouel brothers, the French pros. Antoine Rouel also in the Hall of Fame. But basically, it was a situation where Antoine Rouel used a couple of just like Jedi mind tricks to convince his opponent that it was perfectly okay to play out his card because he didn't have a counterspell. When in fact he had just chosen suboptimal plays in the first 2 turns to convince his opponent he didn't have a counterspell, and then when he ran out the Psychotog, he force spiked it. It was just like the greatest thing. Here's what he did. He turn one on the draw, he played a swamp or a land tapped, I believe, indicating that he didn't have Force Spike, because obviously if you have Force Spike, you play the Islander, right, the blue source. So he plays that, then his opponent casts, he casts Duress on the following turn, and his opponent counters, and he chooses not to Force Spike the counter spell to get the Duress in. And so the following turn, his opponent's like, well, Psychotog is pretty good here. Just runs it out, gets Force Spike, is the greatest Force Spike in the world. As Mike Flores, who was the commentator at the time, said, I get mad when I get my Jackal Pups Force Spiked, let alone Psychotog.
Yeah, that's a level. I'm like 3 or 4 levels below that.
That's one of those things like in poker that only works against players that are good enough to recognize that.
Right. Yeah, I'd probably just doof my way.
I would look at it this way. I've got 3 lands. Yeah. One's blue, one's black. I'm gonna play Psychotog here. Looks really good. And if you're unfamiliar with Psychotog or that deck archetype, I don't have enough time, nor do I have the patience, nor will you want to listen to why it's so important to Force Spike your opponent's Psychotog. But
that was back in the days where Wild Mongrel was considered broken.
Yeah, they had that was the semifinals, and in the finals of that tournament he played Madness, Blue-Green Madness. So
I played a lot of Psychotog back then.
So Wild Mongrel, Basking Rootwalla, Aquamoeba, Cephalid Coliseum, and also Psychotog.
That was a great deck, and it was about a $30 deck. It was solid tier 1.
While we wait for Jonathan here to mulligan, question in the chat, what do we play in Modern? Schmidt, you play, of course.
I do play. I play 2 separate decks. I play Eggs, which is a combo deck we saw go and win first place in the Pro Tour last fall. And then I also play homebrew White Knights.
Yeah, the Knight's deck's actually pretty good. It just works off Aether Vial. We haven't seen a really good Aether Vial deck in Modern other than the Shadow Yasuoka, like Eternal Witness, Cryptic Commands combo deck, which is very good, but not a lot of... That's more of like a control deck with Aether Vials as something.
So
I
it
was
looks
just
like
assume as soon as I get into Modern, they will ban every card that I just picked up, so I've avoided it.
well, you know, when I was looking at modern decks to build,
Turn 3 Boris Reckoner meets a Devour Flesh.
looking into modern decks to build, I said, well, why don't I play Storm? And the next day, the very next day, was the day that
They banned
Seething
Storm?
Song was banned. So,
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. People who have watched the stream in weeks prior know that I'm very disappointed in them banning Seething Song for virtually no reason.
so we got some Vanguard tokens.
We do see some Vanguard cards used as tokens. Casey, of course, resolving Lingering Souls, and now offering up Duress. Duress, obviously a sideboard card against the control deck, or Jonathan's deck technically has enough control elements for Duress to be good against it. Jonathan in that choice now here where he decides, do I counter it or do I let you choose the counter spell? So he's going to take the counter spell, which basically is the correct play because now he can flash in his Angel. Oh my goodness, Casey's run so good tonight. He's played 5 Devour Flesh in the first 10 collective turns of this game match.
Yeah, time for a deck check.
So what was the other card in Jonathan's hand? It was Mizium Mortars, which is a 1-of. 5 mana is a Vraska. Oh my.
Snapcaster Counterflux.
Snapcaster Counterflux. The best possible draw off the top of Jonathan's deck. We did not see that when Casey did not see that when he duressed. Assumed the coast was clear. I would have assumed it as well, but no. Jonathan draws one of his outs. Because Jonathan's just going to lose to that Vraska. Because Mizium Mortars can't dome it. Casey's just going to sit behind those Lingering Souls tokens. Oh my goodness! So for as good as Casey was running to have 2 Devour Fleshes when he needed them, Jonathan also running good with Snapcaster, then negate off the top. Aggro is going to try and dig for some more business. Whiff. He whiffed on his one in game 1 as well.
Well, you know, it's probably 3 cards he didn't need anyway, so... Well, then again, it drops creatures, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
So, yeah, that might have been
Another Vraska? Does this one stick?
Oh, you got, what, 3 open, so not enough to Snapcaster and negate.
No. Going to need a Detention Spear. Another Aggro Bolus.
Like it's an instant or sorcery, right?
Oh my goodness! Three whiffs across 2 games with Aggro Bolus.
Yeah, I'd be flipping the table right about now.
So Jonathan not going to go after Vraska, just going to attack Casey directly. Does Vraska ultimate on 8?
I want to say 7.
Let's bring her up. Let's use our technology.
7.
So it's going to go ultimate next turn. Of course, Casey should remember that Jonathan does in fact have Mizium Mortars in his hand, which will be the ultimate blowout if he for some reason decides to ultimate her on 7, exactly. Reckoner here is very interesting too, because now, is that Mutilate? What is that card?
Well, I would say it's a Mutilate, but...
Is it Mutilate?
That's what it looks like.
Oh, he forgets. He forgets that card. I'm not wrong, right? The card in his hand is Mizium Mortars, right? He can't cast it.
Yep.
Can he cast it? He doesn't have 3 red, does he?
Doesn't. 2 red.
No, he doesn't.
So
he gets there. Casey giving Jonathan the out to draw a red source and get totally wiped out of that game, but while he did draw a land, it was not the red source that he needed for that Mizium Mortars to overload. So a quick game here between the 2 more controlling decks. So congratulations to Casey. He and his homebrew moved to 3-0 on the night. I moved outside so I can try to find another feature match. You guys can feel free to discuss a variety of topics while I go find something else. Preferably Magic related.
Magic, yeah.
You can talk about your modern decks.
Or my lack thereof.
Well, yeah, I think when we brought Modern up, someone mentioned there's a new combo deck with Blister Coil Weird and
Mantle.
And the Mantle. And that's a pretty exciting combo for you guys that like cantrips and like to play your blue cards, I guess.
I really am reluctant to get into Modern because I don't like Constructed that much anyway, and I'm scared that I'll end up trading out like $300 worth of cards and then instantly get the core of the deck banned as soon as it becomes good.
Yeah, well, if you're looking for something really cheap to start up for Modern, that Blister Coil Weird deck, it's about $60 straight out of the box. And that's with buying, brand new cards straight off the box. It runs a bunch of commons, uncommons, and it's a bunch of cantrip spells. So you have that. So let's see what else we got here.
Soul Sisters.
Soul Sisters, that's a...
I feel like if I came into contact with a life gain deck, that it might actually cause like a paradox that would tear a rift in the space-time continuum.
So it looks like we've got some people calling I'm going to call back to the days of the Omnidor deck with Alchemist's Refuge, trying to flash in some Door to Nothingness.
Remand, one of my favorite spells ever.
Remand is a decent spell. And looks like we got people hoping for some pretty solid Modern reprints. Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of Modern staples up quite a bit in the last couple weeks. You've got, of course, the Tarmogoyf. He's gone up about $30-40 over the last few weeks.
What's he sitting at?
Tarmogoyf is at $130 now.
That is absolutely insane.
He is just crazy expensive. But as we all know, Modern Masters, their big mover, their first spoiled card is a Tarmogoyf. So June 7th, which I'm lucky enough that June 7th is my birthday for Modern Masters to be released. So definitely going to be drafting on my birthday.
With a Grand Prix.
And with a Grand Prix out there. I won't be lucky enough to make it to the Grand Prix, but...
I don't know how excited I am about that limited environment.
I'm never excited about limited. But I am excited about this bonus match. Excuse me.
Who do we have?
We've got Bob Barker versus Brett Favre. No, we've got, on the left, we got Brett Rose. He's playing Esper Control. I believe this was the quarterfinal matchup that we saw last week. He's playing against Joseph Deal, who's already on tonight in round 1, playing Gruul Aggro, the Cyto deck. The deck that you traded for parts of tonight.
Traded for most of it from Joseph.
He apparently had 2 sets of them, I guess. But we do have the bonus match for you here. These guys are moving to Game 3. Brett Rose playing a pretty traditional Esper Control with all the elements that you would imagine. Blind Obedience, Azorius Charms, Supreme Verdicts, all that kind of jazz.
And I've literally never known Joseph to play anything but base red decks.
He's played... I'm trying to think. He does play aggro decks. He's played other stuff in the past, but I'm struggling right now to remember which...
He did. He played a junk seance deck for a little while.
He did. He did play that.
I had the displeasure of losing to it with my Conjurer's Closet deck. In its early stages, it was missing a lot of the enter the battlefield effects. It was missing the Rangers and stuff like that. So.
Also, interesting tidbit. Again, keeping our theme tonight of useless trivia that no one cares about. I just sent my 2,500th tweet. So congratulations to me for arbitrary milestones. Question in the chat while these guys shuffle up for Game 3. Do I have any idea how much Modern Masters is going to be printed? What is going to retail for? Well, the retail, I do know, it's like $8 a pack.
It is $6.99 for the retail.
$6.99.
And they'll be printing... boxes will be the same price what they are now, but boxes will only have 24 packs, which, as everybody knows, is the exact number you need for an 8-man draft pod.
Okay, so basically each box is a draft.
Yeah.
Rather than the awkward 36 packs of the set.
And I'm hoping there's not any distribution shenanigans where the bigger distributors get tons and tons
they
of
are.
smaller...
That is how it's going to be, and I think it's very limited in its release, as we see both players mulligan down to 6. Oh, you also like how I use the 0 for aggro instead of the letter O, which is a nice touch by me. Let's go ahead and fix that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much exactly they print of it. I know that they are they've hedged themselves to be erring on the side of underrun.
Yeah.
They are not erring on the sides of too much, because this is obviously the first time in a long time that they've reprinted cards that weren't on the reserve list. In the entire Chronicles debacle from like 1993 or 94.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what drove the reserve list. That controversy.
It was a very big outcry from the Magic community,
and justifiably so. It's that constant debate. Yes, you want to keep the cost of entry low so new players can play formats, but at the same time, you don't want to alienate players who have previously invested in cards to play, because those guys are also your dedicated customers at some point too. So you have to balance that. You want to keep the cost of entry to formats low. I know they really want Modern to thrive, because Legacy, for as great a format as it is, that's obviously my favorite format. I've talked about it numerous times, but it is just, those cards are dual lands are 20 years old. Like, there's just only so many of them. They're not printing more, so it's always going to be expensive. And Modern, unfortunately, due to excessive speculation in the secondary market, is becoming that same way. So they're trying desperately to counteract that. So we'll see exactly how it works. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know details on the print run, but
it's going to be pretty small from what I hear. And I don't know if you guys have checked out the site recently, but Tarmogoyf's the only spoiled card, but they do have artwork up for what appears to be a City of Brass reprint. And
yeah, I can imagine. We can talk about this a little bit later after the round, but I think it's pretty obvious what some of the reprints are going to be. I would be very surprised if we don't see Vendilion Click, Dark Confidant, Thoughtseize, all of those $50 plus staples. But more importantly, let's get back to the match here. It looks like Joseph lost game 2, so he was on the play. Both these players mulled to 6. Turn 1 Cackler into turn 2 Flinthoof Boar. Meets an Azorius Charm from the Esper deck of Brett Rose. So Brett off to a great start here. Keeping his aggro opponent at bay. Of course, mulling to 6 on the play is like incredibly difficult for the aggro deck to come out of. Some decks can unmulligan very easily. Excuse me. Oh, and the total blowout. Rancor tries to connect with Flinthoof Boar. It meets an ultimate price in response, so 2 for 1, yeah. With the removal spell, Joseph down to 2 cards with just a 2/2 on board. I would think that Brett's deck, which does play main board Blind Obedience, would be one of the better decks against the Gruul aggro deck. Oh, is he going to do it again? Ooh. Oh my goodness. And you see Joseph get a little bit frustrated there, and rightfully so. That is, of course, the game that they're playing, as Dimir Charm takes out the second target for Rancor, or the second target for a second Rancor.
Yeah.
Burning Tree Emissary does resolve. Rancor.
See it leave the board. Snapcaster.
Oh, this is
and the Dimir Charm.
This is a whitewash.
Yeah.
So not 1, not 2, but 3 2-for-1s. Brett somehow putting his Natalia Drownyard in the graveyard. But the good thing here, I mean, this game is basically unwinnable for Joseph. But the good thing is that the Esper deck does not close fast by any means. And a moral victory. The Skullcrack negates the life gain off of Sphinx's Revelation, but he's now hell-bent, and Brett's going to go ahead and draw back up to a full grip. This may be one of the most lopsided games of Magic I've ever seen, that we've ever had on the stream, that wasn't the result of like Mana Screw or Flood. Joseph has had a legitimate draw, and it's just been crushed by
Dimir Charm.
Somebody in the chat earlier was asking for Dimir Charm action. Well, they're getting a ton of it in this game. Snapcaster, a 10-turn clock. Joseph draws another land off the top. and Drown Yard online now. It's going to be pretty funny if this Snapcaster just attacks 10 times. At least Joseph's lands are all the same Goblin Mountain Zendikar full art land. That's one thing you can take away from this matchup. Win, lose, or draw, at least all of your lands matched, right?
That's true.
I'm really grasping at straws here, just trying to come up with something to talk about. There's Blind Obedience, as if the Snapcaster beatdown wasn't bad enough.
That insult to injury.
Death by 1,000 lashes. Burning Tree Shaman comes into play tapped.
And he gets eaten right up.
I would be, I'm not sure if I was Brett, I may have just not played that, just so I didn't feel like a jerk. Because at some point, so now he's going to be able to extort on all of his removal spells, so it's likely a 4 or less turn clock here. We've had some decent Magic on tonight, but we have not run very good in terms of length of match. After these guys are done, we'll have had 2 separate matches finish in under 30 minutes. Orzhov Charm
eating a 3.
But he gets to extort, so it's not nearly as bad.
That is true.
I mean, Hellrider's obviously the best top deck that Joseph can come up with at this point. Short of some kind of sulfuric vortex effect or something. Flinthoof Boar meets a Psychic Strike.
This is just not Joseph's match.
Sometimes it's just not meant to happen. I mean, Magic is a game of variance, and we've seen Joseph's deck, have some very aggressive starts.
Well, there's the last Rancor into the yard with the second Hellrider.
We've seen Joseph's deck do some unfair things in previous matches and in previous weeks. But this week, in this match, Brett was all answers all the time. So on the strength of 3 Rancor-busting 2-for-1s, Brett Rose's Esper deck moves to 2-1. These guys both had 1 loss on them. So Joseph unfortunately dropping down to 1-2. With the number of players that we have in tonight's tournament, 3-2 likely not good enough to make it to the top 8. But you can always hope, right? Always hope. I don't know if we can find another match. Let me just do a quick run by. Well, you can, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you extol to everyone the virtues of coming to our tournament?
Okay. Alright guys, so Saturday, March 30th, which, as most of you know, is about a month from now, we're going to have Star City Games Invitational Qualifier. First place is $250 cash, that is American currency, cash, that you can spend anywhere, along with the invitational entry to the Star City Games Invitational. Second place through 8th place gets some packs, and top 8 gets its own exclusive playmat. Open Point Series points if you want to grind into the SGC Invitational. And additional prizes depending on attendance. So, starts around 11, that's registration, and goes that afternoon. Entry fee's $25. And it's here at Lost Legions. So I see that Boros, very interesting username here, is posting something about Noah Bradley and his amazing art.
So have you convinced everyone to come to
I've convinced everyone to come to our Star City
Good job, Schmidt.
But Noah Bradley is doing some free signing if you mail him anything you want signed. He doesn't care if it's his artwork or anybody else's.
He just sign anything.
He will sign anything you send him.
Mail him napkins and like voided checks and just bills.
He says you can send him anything you want. He will
parking
sign
tickets, your firstborn.
Yep, he says send him return postage, and he will pop that right back at you.
Old chat regular Dizga saying that thanks to you, Eric, he and his entire family are coming to the event. So
entire extended family.
Look at that, uncles, aunts, second cousins twice removed, all coming down. I mentioned it before, not to distract from your comment about the artist signing, which is pretty cool. But seriously, a lot of you guys have been watching us since our first inception. This is, of course, our 27th week of having this event. 26 weeks over 27 actual weeks. I did miss one event over Christmas. But, this is an opportunity for you to help the store out. If you are within the area, if you're from Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, PA, or something like that, it is a cash tournament. It is on a Saturday. It's conveniently located on a weekend where there is nothing else going on. So definitely come and check that out. So let's talk a little bit more. Anything else going on in the chat there? I did want to mention I did step out, look for another feature match. It's just one of those awkward times in the round where everyone is either done. There's a lot of aggro in the room tonight, so a lot of matches are already done, and then everyone else is kind of already in the midst of battle. I will point out that there is someone out there right now who currently is at 3,000 life.
3,000 life. Is this the Boros Reckoner Nero's Pilgrim combo?
No, this is the... there's lots of Faith Menders. It's a populate life gain. It's a Selesnya life gain populate deck involving multiple Faith Menders. So someone is at 3,000 life, so that's fun. Don't see that happen. His opponent is playing like red deck, so I guess it's now on the mill plan. I guess.
Yeah.
That's the only way to figure it out. But anything else going on in the chat there?
Apparently we've been moved to tier 2.5 as far as our streaming is concerned. No longer third tier.
Nice. My Twitter bio says recovering second tier Magic financial enthusiast, aspiring tier 2 Magic livestream commentator. So. But anyway, I did want to talk about, we did get a lot of comments earlier. Seems like the chat is very interested in Modern Masters, as we're now joined by Scotty Wright. You're just dropping off your bag?
You did get it, okay.
So you did give me this. Weird. So are you sitting in here? We don't have a match, but we're talking about Modern Masters. Are you familiar?
I've heard of it. I haven't been keeping up with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not to be too surprised, because you are, of course, can't read.
Yeah.
So it's tough for you to read news on it. Can't read. It's a funny joke I like to make about everybody. I also like to make the classic joke of as I bend over to pull up my socks, because I get really uncomfortable when my socks drop around my ankles. I have like the tallest. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. I'm weird. I don't like to get my hands dirty, and I don't like my socks to be too low. OCD tendencies with Zach Sells Magic. So another joke I like to make, I was saying, along with the can't read joke, is when someone starts their story with a friend of mine. I like to get in with the whoa. You don't have any friends. It's clearly a lie. So don't lie to me. So Scotty Wright joins us. So we're talking about Modern Masters. Someone in the chat was talking about it. Basically what the print run is, what we expect retail to be on them. Eric was explaining the cost of the packs. Of course, it's a 24-pack box. $6.99 retail, which does work out to the same retail price on the box, but there are less packs. The reason the retail price is higher, for a couple reasons. Number one, because the card quality is just much better. Also, there's no land and like weird. Well, actually, no, there's no.
They're
land.
not basic lands.
Yeah.
So
there's not any weird filler cards in there. But also, it's again, you have to take into consideration the secondary market. Wizards always makes these decisions saying that they don't worry about the secondary market, but we all know that's not entirely true, because you can't not consider the secondary market when making these decisions, or it will greatly affect players and who shows up at your events. So another reason for the $7 price tag is because they don't want everyone to buy them at $3. You don't want packs that have dark. Okay, so here, if you go Future Sight, which has a $120 Tarmogoyf in it or whatever, you know what a pack of Future Sight sells for retail, give or take? About $8. Okay, Zendikar packs, which have in the rare slot a $25 or more of 5-cycle of fetch lands, $6. Okay, so they can't just sell them at $3.99 if all the cards are going to be possibly, and again we're speculating, other than you know, what you say is probably a City of Brass reprint based on art, as well as Tarmogoyf, which they have spoiled.
Yes.
But we're expecting things like, or at least I expect things like Dark Confidant, Vendilion Click, Thoughtseize. There's no way Thoughtseize isn't in there. You know, a variety of other things that could show. Because remember, another thing they've talked about, or to finish my thought, I should say, you can't have packs that have Tarmogoyfs and Dark Confidants in them selling for $4 a thousand, or $4 a pack, because it's just, well, the market will, like, first of all, there's no way they sell for $4 a pack, because people will be rushing for them so much, and they are a limited pack run, that people will just start. It's the same thing with, like, Commander's Arsenals, and the Commander decks, and the From the Vaults, and all that stuff. What was that?
Nice.
But are you done out of the tournament?
No,
Okay.
I just got rolled by red deck.
There's a lot of red decks out there, and it drives me nuts because the red deck's not very good TV, and multiple red deck pilots refuse to play on camera. So it's always fun when you get to the top 8 and it's like, nope, nobody wants to play on camera. Well, then don't play red deck. How about that? If you hate winning. But yeah, so like it's the same thing with the From the Vault stuff. You know, like they print From the Vault, they release them at Gen Con. It's supposed to reward like good stores because they get a guaranteed 6 or 8 copies of them and they can charge for more. So they say they're like $35 or $39.99 retail. They always sell for like $80 or $100 depending on how good they are. And that's exactly what's going. It might happen with Modern Masters now. I don't know. But like if you charge $4 for them, like it's going to be a mad rush. There's no way it could stay at $4. So that would be interesting to see. But I am curious to see. I know Eric, you play Modern. Scotty, you were building Storm, then they banned Storm. We've already lamented that. That drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's not. They've made lots of mistakes. Doesn't mean they have to ban entire mechanics because they hate them. I don't think it's not like Storm was dominant in any sense. That's just a pet peeve of mine. But any other cards you think we'll likely see, and feel free in the chat as well to speculate.
I think we're definitely going to see some Aether Vial reprint, and we're going to see a lot of nice uncommons and commons coming back out.
Yes, Kitchen Finks. Yeah. I think almost all of the chase uncommons, like your Aven, like possibly like Aven Mind Sensor, Kitchen Finks, things like that. In the chat, we're getting some comments. Blood Moon. I think Blood Moon might.
Blood Moon?
That's another interesting choice because last time Blood Moon was printed was like, what, like 4th edition or whatever? I mean, was it printed in like 8th or anything like that? I think it was printed in like 8th or 9th, but it hasn't been printed in years.
Yeah.
And it's a crucial. I mean, there's decks now that are playing it main deck. Lightning Helix is another interesting choice. We're also getting confirmation that Blood Moon might have been in 8th edition. They're also talking about Aether Vial was already reprinted, but I don't know if it was from the vault. I'm not sure if that will. Remand is getting mentioned. Spell Snare probably will also show up. All of those cards that they can reprint, they'll tank a little bit in value, but no one can be like really surprised or upset. Like there's no reason Spell Snare should be like an $8 card. That just shouldn't happen. Question in the chat, do you think there will be any unbannings beforehand? And of course I mean Bitter Blossom. So we've talked about this. If you haven't watched the stream before, when they banned Seething Song and Bloodbraid Elf, I spent like, I don't know, like an hour in here over the course of the entire event just lambasting the DCI for why they, like, I didn't mind that they banned them so much as their explanations for them were just complete garbage. Like they basically banned Bloodbraid Elf because they didn't like that Jund was being played too much. It wasn't winning too much, they just didn't like singing enough, and they don't have the balls to ban like Tarmogoyf or Thoughtseize or any of the other pillars of that. They want to ban the cheap one because as much as they don't care about the secondary market, and that'd be fair, like Bloodbraid Elf was the best card in that deck. It is the card draw engine, or the card advantage engine. Seething Song, their excuse was like, I don't even want to get into it. Like, it's just, they quoted absurd statistics that didn't matter at all, and the biggest one, it was like the most popular deck online, which because it was the cheapest deck online.
Yeah.
So that's just absurd. But I also was really upset that they didn't unban something. I thought that there's several cards on the banned list, and you remember Modern bannings started before the first match of Modern had ever been played. And while I had some problems with that in general, I think they've figured out over time that, like, there are a lot of cards on there that are not going to affect the format like they thought. Like, for example, Valakut. They banned Valakut immediately because Valakut, like, ruined Standard for a year for some people. with the Titan interaction. So they didn't want people just to be playing Valakut and then people being like, oh, I don't want to play Modern, it's got Valakut, I hate it. Same reason why they banned a lot of stuff. They unbanned Valakut, it's like tier 1, but it's not that good. It's like barely, it's like, they put like one copy in the top 8 at the Pro Tour, and then occasionally a Scape Shift deck will see like a good finish in a PTQ, but it's not even that good, you know? It's the same thing like when they unbanned land tax in Legacy, like, see it in a couple niche decks, but then eventually people are like, this card's not really as good as some of the other strategies. But the biggest ones, in my opinion, are the true control cards, Ancestral Visions, you know, the Suspend, Ancestral Recall, and Bitter Blossom. Like, I don't understand why Bitter Blossom is banned, except for the fact that, like, Fairies was kind of like the Caw-Blade 3 years prior, in the sense that it was all Fairies, there was a lot of mirror matches, and people got really sick of that. Yeah, another thing in the chat that Noah TZ or Noats or whatever was mentioning, whatever the username I'm butchering, mentioning that another one thing they're upset about Storm is they said they didn't want it to kill on turn 3. But like Infect kills on turn 3 all the time. You can also still kill on turn 3 with Storm with Pyromancer's Ascension.
Right.
It doesn't like. You can't just say in a format we don't want decks to kill in turn 3 because someone's going to find a way. Unless you stop printing cards, there's always going to be a way.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I think just to look at some of the other cards, there's like basically 4 cards in Modern that like I'm 100% behind for banning, and they're the ones that are just the most egregiously unfair cards. That is, surprisingly enough, Blazing Shoal, because Blazing Shoal was designed when Infect didn't exist, so like with its interaction with Infect, it's just too good. Hypergenesis, which is just, it's not interactive, it's not the kind of Magic people want to play. That's a deck I would play. Like when they announced Modern, I was like, oh, that's the deck I want to play. I already had it because I play it in Legacy. Like, it's not very good in Legacy, but I have it. And then they banned it immediately. I'm like, that's not surprising. Skull Clamp. Like, Skull Clamp shouldn't be a Magic card. And then Umezawa's Jite or Jit or however you pronounce it. That card is just oppressive. Like, it's in every deck because you either want it in your deck or you want to kill your opponent's deck. Or I don't even mind Jace, like big Jace, like Jace the Mind Sculptor, because Jace is obviously one of the best cards ever printed. But if you let the format, there's tons of aggressive decks in the format that can answer a Jace. And I just don't really understand why some of these cards are banned. And it's just banned basically because they're like, we wanted to make sure that none of these standard decks showed up. We didn't, yeah. So I thought that was, I don't know. I've said it before. Like, they should have just approached it as the Wild West. They should have just said, all right, for the Pro Tour, play whatever the heck you want to. And then if some deck comes out of it, it's like way too good, like Blazing Shoal or Hypergenesis, you're just like, we can't have that. We gotta get out of there. Because first of all, it's been really fun to watch the best pros in the world playing with all these cards. It's really been fun. I don't think Stoneforge is egregious either. Like, I think it's really good, but I don't think it's broken, because the reason it's so good in Legacy is because you can play it on turn 2 and then support it with so much removal, counter magic, and targeted discard that it's really good. The reason Stoneforge is so good in Legacy is because Stoneforge is the enabler for the Batterskull, but that's not what you have to worry about. You have to worry about the deck has Jace, it sometimes has Elspeth, it has Counterbalance Top, it has all these other things. Like, I don't know, like, why is it so bad? I think they'll never unban it, and I think they'll never reprint that card, because it's just got too much bad connotation, you know what I mean? People quit playing Magic because of Caw-Blade. That's the first card they've banned in Standard in since Mirrodin. Like, that's how bad it was. Interesting comments in the chat. Dark Depths is another card that's kind of close, because, like, you know, you can play a deck with 4 Dark Depths and 4 Urborgs and 4 Vampire Hex Mages, and a lot of decks won't be able to answer turn 2 2020 Flying Indestructible. But, like, if that becomes a nuisance, then decks will come out to answer that and stuff like that. I just think there's nothing in Magic that can't be answered. Like when they printed Gristlebrand, there was like a month in Legacy where reanimating or show and telling Gristleman was the only thing anyone wanted to do. And people were screaming for it. Not even 3 weeks after the printing, they were saying this card has to be banned. You have to ban Gristlebrand. And then like 2 weeks later, people just started like jamming Caracas in the sideboard of their decks and started playing like tons of counter magic, and the fair decks rose up. And then like, you haven't heard about Gristlebrand ever since. Like, it's still a good deck. It's still a good archetype. It's still sleeved up in that bag right there. But things work themselves out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you let these things go. So
I think
Dizga's suggesting a dual decks Jace the Mind Sculptor versus Tybalt, which is basically like dual decks Muhammad Ali versus a baby, I think, or or Chuck Norris versus Inanimate Board.
Yeah.
It's our boy. Do you know Vinny Lucenti from Morgantown, Brandon's friend?
Yeah.
Just made an appearance in the chat. I'm trying to talk him down to coming into the Star City Invitational qualifier
At the end of the month.
because he is conveniently located. So good to see him today. What else is going on in the chat? We can.
We got some excitement over the new From the Vault.
What is the new From the Vault?
It is celebrating a 20th anniversary.
Oh yeah, the
of Magic.
20th. Yeah, so FTV From the Vault 20. It's called. Have we talked about that? So we get more information about that in the chat. We get information on Modern Masters, and we'll get information about From the Vault 20. So it is a celebration of the past 20 years of Magic, as Magic does turn 20 years old this year, which is absurd to think that like this game started with one guy, Richard Garfield, PhD in math, just invented this fun game, sold it to Wizards of the Coast. Like every set they printed, they sold out of like almost immediately. That's why they had like three sets of the first set, Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, because they kept selling out of them. It was very popular. And now, 20 years later, it's like we're having 3,000 people at Grand Prix, and we're sitting here in a broom closet broadcasting Imaginary Wizard fights to a very eagerly watching audience of almost 200 people. We had 185 people watch round one. Thanks, JB.
Welcome. I will see you all later.
All right, Scott. Do you want to know where you're playing?
Sure.
Do you want me to make a joke about how you're playing?
Not playing a cat in an alley or a dog this time?
No, I think
Squirrel?
only 2 callbacks. You're playing. I'm gonna be able to find it before I do. Scotty Wright playing table 9 against your brother.
Oh, boy. He called it.
How do you guys play against each other like every week?
I don't know.
There's 40 people and you guys play each other every week.
Just happened.
So it's the Wright Brothers
Table
Civil 9.
Thank you, sir.
Wright Brothers Civil War out there. So we do have round 4 pairings. We got this round and then one more to come. We're going to step outside, find you a feature match. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Magic action.